Hey everyone, and welcome. In this guide, you will learn how to improve the fundamental skill behind pretty much everything you do in Valorant, crosshair placement. Other skills like flicking look amazing in montages, but crosshair placement is the skill that you will use for the large majority of your gunfights. Being better at keeping your crosshair in the right spot won't wow your teammates as they spectate you. Without further ado, let's talk about the importance of crosshair placement, as well as some pro tips and tricks for improving. To start off, we need a definition. What is crosshair placement? And what separates good crosshair placement from bad crosshair placement? Simply put, crosshair placement is just the location, both vertically and horizontally, where you're aiming, particularly when you're not in a duel. Good crosshair placement has two components. The simpler one is the y-axis. Good crosshair placement means you are typically aiming at head height on the y-axis and ready to shoot someone where it does the most damage. On the x-axis, good crosshair placement is a bit more tricky. It consists of finding the sweet spot between holding an angle too tight and too loose. If you're holding an angle too tight, you will have to compensate if the opponent swings wide. Likewise, holding an angle too loosely leaves you vulnerable to an enemy who does not peek that wide. There is a nice sweet spot between the two where you are not forced to compensate too much regardless of what your opponent does. The less mouse movement there is before you shoot, the easier it is to hit your target. The more you have to move your mouse, the higher the odds of error in your shot. Combining the goals we just set for the x-axis and the y-axis, we can define good crosshair placement as aiming at headshot height and minimizing the amount you need to move your mouse if you see an opponent. Now that we've defined exactly what we are trying to attain, let's talk about 3 things you can work on to improve your crosshair placement. First is your awareness. This sounds really simple, and it is, but being aware is extremely important to both playing well and improving in Valorant. If your crosshair placement is lacking, there is no way to actively improve it without making a conscious effort to do so. You have to remind yourself to stay focused on where you are aiming, because crosshair placement is not a skill that fixes itself. Obviously in game, there's other factors contributing to your awareness as well. You should try to focus on the game as much as possible, and avoid flaming your teammates or getting distracted by your phone while you're playing. Playing on tilt or with bad sleep are 2 other ways to impair your focus and make your crosshair placement worse. If you are trying to improve, play when you feel right and are ready to give your 100%. Just by actively being aware and thinking about where your crosshair is in game, you will quickly start to see improvement, especially if you find yourself constantly shooting at people's feet. After awareness comes map knowledge. Being familiar with the maps is critical to being a good player. Earlier I said that crosshair placement doesn't fix itself. While that's true, gaining familiarity with the maps is one way that your crosshair placement can improve just by playing. It's still important that you aren't just aiming at people's feet, but by playing more games, you can become more knowledgeable about what angles opponents can peek you from, and when. Additionally, you can find the sweet spot for different parts of each map and get comfortable with how people peek different angles in different ways. There is also an amazing pro tip that we at Skillcapped have if you want to drill your crosshair placement and quickly focus on improving your map familiarity. This drill optimally requires a partner. To do this drill, enter a custom game on the map you want to practice with cheats on. Select Sage as your agent and enable auto respawn and infinite abilities. Then, all you have to do is die and use your ultimate on your dead body. At the spot where you ulted from, you will leave a dummy Sage that can replicate head height for the purposes of this drill. Of course, you can do this by yourself by dying with fall damage, but it takes a while and is much harder to set up placements compared to doing this with a partner. Once you've set up the dummy Sages where you want them, you can use them as practice for getting muscle memory down on common angles and spots on any map. Again, this is harder without a partner, so we have a couple alternate drills for when you don't have anyone to practice with. One alternative is using Cypher traps, setting them up at head height at common angles for developing muscle memory. Another option is just playing deathmatch to try and get more and more repetition on each map. The downside to deathmatch for the purpose of training map familiarity is the fact that there are random spawns and it doesn't really simulate a real game or the angles people play very closely. With the Sage Drill, you can perfectly recreate specific things you want to practice, which is ideal for a drill environment. Being more aware and developing knowledge of the game and its maps are both crucial mental parts of crosshair placement. But of course, there is still a massive mechanical component to this skill, and that is mouse control. Even with awareness and game knowledge, you still need the skill to keep your mouse where you want it. This is especially important on attacker side or in retakes when you're quickly transitioning from angle to angle as you look for your enemies. Having smooth mouse movement and fine control over where your mouse is can be vital in preparing to duel someone when you are the peaker. Think about it. When you're clearing corners, you should be snapping your mouse from sweet spot to sweet spot for each respective angle you clear. The better your mouse control, the easier this will be and the more success you will have in game. So, how do you improve mouse control? Like any mechanical skill, the only way to improve it is practice. Grinding in the aim trainer or in deathmatch or even playing actual games will definitely help you improve your mouse control in Valorant. But your skill isn't the only factor contributing to how fluid your mouse movement is. Having the correct sensitivity is crucial for being able to control your mouse smoothly. It's important to have a sensitivity that is not too high. When choosing your sensitivity, you need to understand the concept of EDPI or effective dots per inch. EDPI is the only way to accurately assess your true sensitivity, and it is calculated by multiplying your in-game sensitivity by your mouse's DPI. For example, a mouse DPI of 800 times an in-game sensitivity of 0.5 gives you an EDPI of 400. Only tracking one of your in-game sensitivity or your mouse DPI won't be enough to know how fast your mouse will move in-game. When it comes to EDPI, we recommend an EDPI between 200 and 500, but preferably under 400. It's important to keep in mind that your sensitivity should be easy for you to control, but most pro players have it under 400 because it gives them a larger room for error. The lower sensitivity you are comfortable with, the better. The higher your sensitivity is, the harder it is to maintain fluid movement with your mouse, because just a slight deviation at a high sensitivity can throw you off completely, while at low sense, it might be barely noticeable. Of course, you don't want your sensitivity to be too low. You should be able to turn and shoot enemies without lifting your mouse 5 times. That's why we recommend a minimum of around 200 EDPI. Practicing your mouse control by playing the game as much as possible will definitely help you keep your crosshair where you want it, especially if you're also working on your awareness and your map knowledge. Paired with a low but comfortable sensitivity, and you should see significant improvement in your crosshair placement in no time. So what do you need to work on when it comes to your crosshair placement? Do you tend to lose focus and forget about proper placement? Are you always caught off guard and you need to improve your game knowledge? Or is your ability to control your mouse letting you down when you know where everything should be mentally? Let us know in the comment section below, as it gives us great feedback on what to tailor our guides towards. We here at SkillCap want to thank you for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.